Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Roots and Wings, a podcast that is dedicated to you, the SMB business owner. We're here, Jennifer and I are here to talk all about really the topics that matter. And more often than not, we talk about sales and marketing. We're going to put a little bit of a twist today on it. So, I am a chief revenue officer, Jennifer.
And I am a fractional chief marketing officer.
That's it. And I forgot the fractional word. But really, the conversation today is in case you've been under a rock, Donald Trump rattled cages by threatening Canada and Mexico, China with all these tariffs. And whenever you're listening to this hopefully the tariffs are gone. But we don't know when you're going to be listening to this podcast. But if you're listening and you're hearing or you're watching and you say, "Wow, this is going back and forth, and I don't like the way Donald Trump negotiates,"
Mm.
that's our topic for today. The
Yes.
topic of today is not about political. We're not here to decide if he's right, he's wrong, who's right. Don't care about that.
Mm.
But you as a business owner, what side of the table do you want on the strategic side of it? And there are different ways of bargaining or negotiating with, with your suppliers, even with your clients. So let's get started here today. And Jennifer, I think that our idea is we're trying to help our folks here listen, get some insights into our experiences.
Mhm.
So let's talk about this Trump style, this disruptive bargaining. From
Yes.
your experience, what are we talking about here, and what have you seen in what does it look like from your perspective?
We actually have an official term on it. It's called distributive bargaining. So Trump is the author of the book, right? The Art of the Deal. I haven't read this book. Have you, David?
No, I have not, but I know people who have, and they
Yeah, I,
say,
I do
great,
as well,
great book.
especially people in real estate. Um,
Yes.
but I've seen reports on the book.
Hmm.
So his negotiation style, is a typical distributive bargaining. So I just threw out a term out. So what does that mean? What negotiation style that is? It means um, win and lose. So there is one winner and one loser. Either you win or you lose. And this is used in high competition, but low collaboration. Win or lose. So this is we call it distributive because it is zero sum, right? The pie is fixed.
It's crazy because Jennifer, in my experience, and when I was in the toy business back in the 90s,
Yeah.
and Walmart had come to Canada in 95, the reputation Walmart had from the United States was exactly that distributive bargaining. They had the upper hand on the suppliers.
Mhm.
And whatever they demanded, you jumped. And it was viewed at the time as they were coming in here was how will the zero sum game work in Canada? Because we've had relationships with suppliers, and they weren't. I won't say that they were entirely adversarial, but you saw in many retailer versus supply. It was a retailer supplier, not a partnership,
Mhm.
and very few had that relationship with Walmart. And I spoke to, at the time, many suppliers who said, "I can't do business with Walmart. I just feel like I'm getting beaten up,
Mhm.
but I can't live without them."
Mhm.
Now, we did not have that relationship. We were very, very fortunate. We had a real true partnership for those 5 years that we worked with Walmart,
Mhm.
and there was a collaboration.
Yeah.
There was an understanding of our business model, and we understood their business model, and we came to a medium that worked for both of us.
Mhm.
I can't say that for others. And
Mhm.
so when you talk about that, when you get into a disruptive bargaining style, you have a choice, and you got to ask yourself: is it worth the risk? Is it worth that kind of relationship in
Yeah.
which you
The risk
know?
is really relationship or reputation damage.
Absolutely. And when you get into that, especially when they demand price. And Jennifer, you have a lot of experience with retail.
Mm.
When a retailer demands a price, you don't win necessarily in this kind of bargaining, do
Mhm.
you?
I think it depends. hopefully things, I see things changing, especially in innovation and
Mhm.
where people, introduce more. Yeah, I wanted to introduce another term called integrative bargaining. So where people look at win-win situations, how
Right.
can we win together? How can we make the pie bigger? So I see some changes, but when you deal with a fixated mindset, especially they have a fixated playbook, all they
Right.
want is fill out a form.
But but Jennifer, but that's that I think is, but I've seen this also in negotiations in other areas,
Mhm.
and I want to give a shout out, if I may, to an
Yeah.
old. He was one of my lecturers back when I was doing my MBA some 12 years ago. Pablo Restrepo was taught us negotiation, and he said in a disruptive bargaining situation, your biggest problem is, so what happens? Like, what are you willing to settle on?
Mm.
And I remember his words. He called it the BATNA, the best alternative to a negotiated agreement. And I never forgot that acronym because it was just
Yeah.
so funny. But what he kept saying was, what are you willing to settle with?
Hmm.
Because in an integrated bargaining situation where everybody wins, in a disruptive, not you just said it's a zero sum game. So you're likely to lose something. You don't want to lose everything.
Hmm.
But where are you willing to settle? What's your line of demarcation that says this is what I'm going to do? And I
Hmm.
think that business owners today, and I think people who have been listening to this podcast are going, that was me. I went into this deal and I thought that I can, and I'm hoping, and this is my line, and that's how you feel in a disruptive bargaining. But I love the idea of integrative bargaining because you're actually putting your
There
card
is
on the
another
table.
alternative.
Yeah, you're putting the cards on the table and said, how do we both win?
Yes.
So what have you seen, Jennifer, when it comes to integrated bargaining? What's been your experience?
So I am a brand person, right? So it's more a long-term perspective, and I wanted, I saw some business owners as well. You want everybody involved in your ecosystem to win. Otherwise, that partnership won't be longer, right? That let's go back to Trump's case. If I'm building a casino, right? So some cabinet makers come to me, and I can negotiate the price down to bare minimum, but
Right.
will that supplier work with me again?
Yep.
Perhaps not, because he or she got hurt once, right? So but then, do I care? Maybe not, because I have so many options I can work with, right? But the party you negotiate with, they have options as well,
Absolutely.
right? For
Absolutely.
instance, Canada has options, for
Mm.
some areas, I don't have to do business with you. And China as well. And they can get soybeans from Canada. They don't have to do it, with the US. So going back to integrative bargaining, for me as a brand builder and a long-term person, I always look at collaboration. Where can we make the pie bigger? Um, Before today's episodes, we did some research, right? We've got cases, examples, real life examples, and how can we do win-win? So
Right.
that's more my approach.
Right. Right. I know, you know what? I'm also about integrated bargaining, and I don't want, I mean, regardless of what I'm doing, I don't want to find anybody losing,
Hmm.
because I'll tell you, you never know down the road where you might cross paths again.
Yeah.
And when you cross that path, your reputation is that of a jerk. Your reputation of a you could say, oh, I'm a tough negotiator. But if the game played is win lose, and I know a lot of people who do distributive bargaining,
Mm.
and even when they don't have the upper hand, excuse me, they don't have the upper hand, they
Yeah.
still play like they have the upper hand.
Yeah.
And so it's all about winning,
Mm.
not about collaboration. And you said it was in real estate. I've seen that in real estate. I've seen it in retail. I've seen it in other places.
Mhm.
One of the, when I look at in sports, and I'm a big sports fanatic, and you look at the negotiation between owners who are billionaires
Mm.
and their players that are in some areas millionaires,
Mm.
and they stand their ground. And they go, nope, I want to win.
Mhm.
I don't care that the fact that we need each other to grow a sport and to become lucrative.
Mhm.
I want to win. And there was a period of time in Major League Baseball where that's how the owners played. The owners colluded, and they
Mm.
did.
Yeah.
They stood together. They were
Mhm.
actually caught. And that's why I'm saying they went to court and it was proven they were
Mhm.
guilty of collusion to screw the players.
Mhm.
The players were the product.
Mhm.
The owners paid the bills.
Yeah.
And when they finally, a number of years ago, they finally took approach that, you and I talked about the NBA.
The NBA
There-
case,
The
like
NBA,
2011, right?
what
Yeah.
a lot of people don't realize is today you look at the NBA and you go, oh, LeBron James,
Mm.
multi-millionaire, great. The NBA teetered on bankruptcy in the 80s,
Mm.
literally. And David Stern, who was then the commissioner, went to the players and said, if we don't work together, this league folds.
Mm.
And this is the time of Magic Johnson, Larry Bird. It's like a beautiful era, but the league was on the verge. And if they hadn't collaborated, professional basketball would have been dead in this way. And
Mhm.
so it's just, we could see today the NBA does nothing without the players. The players really do nothing with the owners. And
Yeah.
it's all about how do we make 1 + 1 to be 30.
Yeah.
That has that integrated bargaining has helped.
Yeah.
Baseball finally figured it out. Hockey's finally figured it out.
Mhm.
Football knew about it a long time ago, but even they work in a disruptive bargaining style.
Yeah.
And even though they're successful. So you see that, working collaboratively has essentially better chance for everybody to scale.
Mhm. Yep.
I'm just using sports metaphors, but like you've seen this in the real world. You and
I I
you've done
think in brand building world, right, you see more integrative bargaining. For instance, the Starbucks brand,
mm,
they
mm.
have this practice. I can't remember the name, exact name,
Sustainable
but I
supply
wrote it
chain
down.
strategy. Is that what you were looking for?
Yeah. So the name of their practice, what is that? The farmer, yeah, they've got a name, coffee and farmer equity practice.
Right,
So
right.
in that industry, they have the CAFE,
Hmm.
the acronym,
Right,
and they pay above market price, you know, uh, uh, for quality coffee. They even set up their farmer support centers,
right.
and for instance, like interest-free loans, you go a bit further for your, supplier. You're supposed to negotiate the price, but they
Mhm.
figure out a win-win strategy, right? That's integrative bargaining. But the end result is Starbucks gets a excellent reputation, right? That's your brand. um, we talked about this earlier, like in one of our episodes. Your brand is a goodwill on your balance sheet.
Absolutely.
It's
And
worth
you
something.
and what you bring up with Starbucks is interesting because you've seen other suppliers beat up. Sorry, you see other coffee companies beat up their suppliers,
Yeah.
demanding a price point. Coffee is expensive. You can't raise your prices. You can't do this. You can't do this. You can't do this.
Yeah.
This is a partnership, and I think that is the way that Starbucks has approached it as a
Mhm.
partnership.
Mhm.
Even though it's a supplier and a retailer,
Yeah.
they understand this integrative bargaining is
Mhm.
about understanding each other's business model and how
Mhm.
each one, because look, the farmers without Starbucks do not win, and
Yeah.
Starbucks without the farmers have no product.
Mhm.
So why would you want to mess with that relationship? That's the interesting thing that I see in this, when you're talking about this kind of negotiation.
Yeah.
When you look at, like you said, real estate, and you will notice how often they're beating down suppliers over
Mhm.
a dollar.
Mhm.
It's an adversarial relationship,
Mhm.
and you don't trust each other.
Mhm.
I can't tell you how many times, Jennifer, and I met folks in the construction industry, and just before we recorded this, I had another conversation with somebody in the industry, and the statement was, we like to screw each other.
Mhm.
And it's amazing how the industry hasn't figured out that we need to collaborate. And if you
Yeah.
collaborate, you're better off. But if you want to play like Donald Trump's art of the deal, that's what you're going to get. You're going to get that
The
kind of problem.
market will teach us, and also sometimes when you get more innovative than your competitors, maybe you can find a new way.
Right.
For instance, in the leasing business, right, commercial leasing, and everybody has a playbook. They have their existing strategies. What if you find some other business models, for instance, revenue share, or like use integrative bargaining to find like how can you make the pie bigger? Because I know in the you know right now retail is having a hard time, and what can you do to be more innovative?
Well, listen,
Let others win first sometimes.
right, right. And there are other sectors, there are other industries that have become interdependent on each other. The airline industry is a great example.
Yeah.
Is that if you take the airline industry as a whole, they never made a dollar in their entire history.
Mm,
But the suppliers to that industry, they have to negotiate fairly, because if they lose the airlines, there's no industry.
mhm,
And so there is this understanding of having to work in an integrative kind of fashion.
yeah.
But I'll tell you, I have, in my experience, I have met negotiators who believe that they've had the upper hand
Mm,
and play a disruptive game.
mm,
And one of the hardest things, Jennifer, is get up from the table and walk away.
mm.
And the first time I
It
did,
is your partner, right?
yeah,
Best
absolutely.
alternative to no deal,
That's
no
right.
agreement.
Right. And I want to tell you something. I got out from the table and I thought I needed a diaper change, because I like, oh my God, what the hell did I just do? I must have screwed. But you sometimes, to get to an integrative bargaining, you have to start at the disruptive, because the person at the other end of the table wants you to lose.
Mhm,
And if you know that, you have to ask yourself why you're still sitting at that table.
mm,
And sometimes walking away forces the opponent to become a partner,
mhm.
because then they realize, okay, I can't be this abusive.
Yeah,
And it's interesting because you see it in global politics. You see it, some countries believe that they have the upper hand, and they don't, but
perhaps.
they play it like they do.
Yeah. Coming to recording today's episode, I was actually hoping, the US, Canada, and we will come to an integrative bargaining step. Like
Not with these two players. There's no sense in that. I don't believe in that. And again, we're not here to do that. We're not here to
to
talk.
talk about politics,
But
but
I gotta tell
just
you,
to raise awareness of
that's
the
right.
negotiation styles with our business owners.
But to your point, it's very interesting. Is when you look at the styles and you ask yourself, do I want to be a Donald Trump? Do I want to be a Justin Trudeau? Where it's tit for tat
Neither.
and accusing, and it's adversarial,
Mm,
and you have to come to an agreement. The question is this a better approach,
mm,
or can you sit at the table like two equals? And in global right now today, if you look around the world with all the negotiations that we're seeing on a political side, it's not, you don't necessarily have two friends at the table. You have adversarials, because of politics. And so in business, if you have that mindset of being opposing the person at the other end of the table,
mm.
you're going to have a tough negotiation. It's
Yeah,
going to be tough.
yeah.
But I'm hoping that, even in economic uncertainty, like you said, don't cut the pie,
Mm,
enlarge the pie.
mm.
I love that what you just said, Jennifer. In terms of when you're in branding, you want to grow the pie. Everybody can make more.
Yeah,
We collaborate.
yes. And yeah, I'm thinking to conclude today's episode, we talked about, two negotiation styles. One is distributive bargaining. The other one is integrative bargaining. So one is win and lose. The other is win-win. One is short term. The other is long term, right?
Absolutely. And the question is, where do you want to be?
Yeah.
Because if you're interested in a short win game, go with disruptive. Put it this way, Jennifer. In my experience, I know what I prefer.
Mm.
But like I said, is all about collaboration. But neither style is wrong.
Hmm.
You have to find out where you're gonna be. And
Yeah.
folks, listen, if you've ever here's a crazy example. You've gone to a flea market, you're probably doing disruptive negotiation. You
Yeah.
think you are,
Because
right?
reputation is not, on the spot over
On
there,
the spot.
right?
But you think about it. I'm not going to pay you $10. I'll give you $1. Disruptive negotiation or bargaining. And so we've all done it. We've all done it at some point. Now the question is, in business, where do you want to be?
Yes.
So Jennifer, let's just kind of conclude with, what would you recommend to our folks when they, like, at what point should they consider, like, you say collaborative is the best way, or integrative is the best way.
So if the deal is short term and you do not, you care less about the relationship, integrative, the distributive bargaining, right?
Right,
Disruptive
distributed.
bargaining.
Right.
But if you want long term and make the pie bigger, long term relationship, brand building, and I would definitely recommend integrative bargaining. Um, I have a reputation with my colleagues and saying that everything can be communicated in a
Mhm.
different way. So let's try that.
Yeah, listen, in my experience, and where, or coming in as a salesperson, chief revenue officer, call it whatever you want, Jennifer, my philosophy is, if you win, I win. And if you succeed, I know we're partners for a very long time. And so I need you to succeed so that I could
Yeah.
succeed.
Same
So it
here.
has to be collaborative.
Yeah.
And I have rarely used the distributive method
No.
in my business world, because I'm
Me,
not in a
me
position of power. I'm not in a position of strength where I can beat somebody up. Not
either.
that I really want to, but I don't. I'm almost never in that position. And
Mhm.
even as if you're talking to your suppliers, just remember, finding the right partner, making it collaborative. That suppliers or partner could go to great lengths for you.
Yeah.
If you take the distributive method, you are a supplier client relationship, and who knows where that goes.
Mhm.
And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we will wrap up another edition of Roots and Wings. We hope you subscribe to this channel. If you enjoyed this, please share, like, pass this on to your fellow colleagues, other business people that you may know. We love to talk all about business and the topics that matter to you, coming from a marketing and a revenue perspective generally, but in general from business. So if you have any other questions, suggestions, or whatever, please feel free to put them in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you, what else you'd like us to talk about. And until next time, Jennifer, look forward to seeing you next time on Roots and
Yeah.
Wings. Stay
Thank
well.
you for tuning in.
Thanks for tuning in, and let's hope we're going to get out of this maelstrom real soon. Take
Yeah.
care. Bye-bye.
Bye bye.